Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. You're watching Learn Tech with Sandip Das, and in this session today we're going to learn about CI/CD for Go apps. Okay, and what are the things that we're going to cover in this today's session? First, we'll cover what is like building CI/CD pipelines for GoLang application, then integration with Jenkins and GitHub Actions, then automated testing and deployment strategies, mainly some theoretical portion, and of course, again theoretical portion for monitoring and logging. Now, without any further delay, let's get started. Now I know that many of you are actually first time learning about CI/CD. So I think I should give you a short intro about what exactly CI and what is CD. Okay. Now I hope you guys can see the diagram, and I will come to that later on. But for now, let's understand what exactly is continuous integration. So continuous integration is a development practice where developer frequently merge their code changes into the central repository, typically several times a day. And each merge triggers an automated build and testing process, allowing team to detect and fix issues early. Okay. Now let's try to understand why we do that. Okay. For example, you made some code changes, and if you directly deploy that code change into the production, oh man, that's a disaster. If any issues happen, your production goes down and customer will start complaining, and that's bad for repo, isn't it? So better, before making any obvious mistake, why not there should be a standard test procedure, even before test a build, say that the software going to deploy, the application you're going to deploy, that's build is success or not. After the build, you run various kind of tests, maybe unit test, maybe integration test, or maybe whatever test, other test you want to run. Okay. And then when you're confident, then only you go to the next phase, which is the CD. Now CD, there is two kind of CD, and I'll come to that. Okay. So the first thing is that continuous deployment, which is refer to the automatic deployment of every code change that passes all stages of production pipeline to production environment, which means that you're confident in your code, your testing process, and you're allowing that, like, after the CI phase done, your build is generated, all testings are done, you're happy with it, it will automatically go to the production environment. Okay. On other hand, we have this continuous delivery, which is the automated delivery of the code changes to the staging environment or production like environment, but not the production environment. And after some means there should be a QA step, there should be a testing or manual testing and everything, or some kind of manual approval is required before that piece of code change head to the production. Okay, that is the difference. In continuous deployment, you don't need a manual approval. In continuous delivery, you need a manual approval, and all this entire process we call CI/CD. Okay. Now, what are the typical steps involved in the CI/CD? First, there should be a code change. Second, the code change will trigger the build. And third is the build will trigger. Then the notification, is it a success or failure, that will go the build part. Then it will run, after the build happens, it will run the test. Okay. And after the test succeed, it will notify the outcome, maybe Slack or maybe email or whatever it is. Then the build will be delivered to the staging server, and hopefully there should be a manual approval, after which the code get deployed to the production environment or production service. Okay, that is what I have tried to explain in the above diagram. Okay, so now you understand what exactly is the CI and CD pipeline. Now let's understand the typical process of setting up a CI/CD for Go applications. Okay, first, what do you choose? Of course, you choose a CI/CD platform, and there is many solution to select from. For example, Jenkins, GitHub Action, GitLab CI/CD, and Circle CI. Now, if you're not sure where to start, Jenkins is by default open source option, but if you're hosting your codes in GitHub, then you should consider GitHub Action, or if it's GitLab, then GitLab CI/CD, or if it's something like Circle CI you want to try out, feel free to do that. Okay. For our demo, I'm showing you how to do it in Jenkins and the GitHub Actions. Okay. Now, the second step is to define the pipeline configuration. Again, based on which platform you choose to host your CI/CD solution, then only you choose which YML configuration you have to write, because for Jenkins it will be different, for GitHub it will be different, for GitLab CI/CD, all will be different. I'll show you shortly. Okay. Then in that particular YML itself, you'll have a script. Okay, and there is a very simple script which is go build then dash o then my app, and again based on for which CPU architecture generating, you can further optimize. For simplicity, for the sake of simplicity in the session, I'm saying generating simple build default to the particular OS. You can run go build dash o my app, then the directory which from where you are generating the build. Okay, so here go build dash o my app, then dot means current directory. Okay, after the build is generated, if you have any test unit test cases that you want to run, on any test case you want to run, you can run go test. And the pipeline configuration itself, you should have the deployment like how the code should be deployed, either to the staging or production or maybe pre-prod, where is the environment, and all the configuration for the deployment after the build is success and test is done, you should be also mentioning in the deployment phase. Another what are the options for the deployments? You can have any cloud, for example AWS, GCP, or anything. Then you might be running Kubernetes or maybe ECS, for example, in AWS, or maybe normal virtual machines. So whatever it is, based on your application, how you're hosting it, you should have the deployment phase. Okay, and then the final phase is that the third step is the automation and environment management. Now what is it? So use environment variables for. Now third step is automation and environment management. What it is? So it is to use environment variable for configuration to keep the your application environment agnostic. Why this is? Okay, because first of all the secrets that you have, you should not store in the code. So you should be having some configuration that comes either from you pass the environment variables, or it comes from any secure service, for example secret manager in AWS or the HashiCorp Vault. Those kind of tools and solution you should be using. Okay, so this is the pure, we already covered what is CI/CD, and this is the CI/CD step for the Go application. Okay, now we are starting the practical integration part. Okay, so integrating CI/CD tools with Go. Okay, so first thing we're going to cover is with Jenkins. Okay, now you guys already know that Jenkins is open source. It's a very good tool for even complex workflows. Okay, and even I have shown you that the kind of configuration in Jenkins, or pipeline configuration or declarative pipeline Jenkins that I'm going to use. I will show you directly in the like how I'm hosting it, then how I'm running it, and what is the output. Now let me show you in the code, the Jenkins code, so you can understand the code first. So if we go to the day 11, and inside that there is a Jenkins file. Okay, and there we have the declarative pipeline syntax, and all the pipeline configuration is set there. Okay, first if you come from top to down, this agent any, again it's something that based on your configuration or how you have set up Jenkins, you should mention that one, is up to you. Environment, we are setting some environment variables, again something that you can configure based on your requirement. I'm setting go path as a workspace. And then the stages. Okay, so stages, I have the initialize stage, I have the checkout stage, I have the test stage, I have the build stage, and the deploy stage. Pretty standard stages. Okay, so in the initialize, I set up the environment path for the Go. Okay, so that Go will be available for execution. And then in the checkout stage, I'm checking out the source code. Okay, checkout SCM, source code management. Okay, then in the test case, if you have any source test cases there, or you need test cases there, you can run against the code to make sure all tests are running fine. Then in the build stage, you are generating the final build, which is you're going inside the CD. Then day 11, Go REST API. I think I have shown this REST API development day 6 or 7 something. Let me quickly check. Oh, says day 7 I have shown you how to develop the REST APIs. Okay, so I'm generating a build, that is go build dash o. O means output, and the binary name, which is the my app. Okay, then after you have the binary, you can usually what happens, you can deploy that binary or artifact maybe in the JFrog or any artifact repository, and from there you go and do the deployment. Or you can, instead of I'm doing this via the, for example, direct code, you can just generate a Docker image running some Docker build command. Okay, and then you can push the Docker image TCL. Is up to your requirement and wherever you're running based on that. Okay, now in the deployment, of course, wherever you have your final deployment target, it could be if it's a Docker image you're generating, then it will be ECR. You're storing the image, or maybe other repositories, whatever you have to store it. And then from there you go and deploy to maybe EKS, or maybe for example AKS or GKE, whatever you have hosted your Kubernetes cluster. There you're going to deployment. Okay. And that is pretty much, if it's for example not a container part, it's a virtual machine, then also you have many tools to do the deployment, or you can use Jenkins different plugin for the deployment, where you go and do the deployment for each and every server. Okay. And based on whatever, I'll come to the different deployment policies, so you can follow different deployment policies and deploy the final build code that you're generating here to those servers. Okay. So this is pretty much of it, all the build stages or build workflow. Then in the post stage, you should always, I prefer this. So you do the clean up the workspace. Then if it's success, I'm just printing here that build and is successful. That in production is because you should post that to a Slack channel, or maybe somewhere, or maybe email it or SMS, up to you. Okay. And if failure, you should also some kind of mail or notification or Slack post should happen. That's up to you. Now, for the sake of keeping the demo to very simple, I'm just using this way. Okay. Production will be a bit different. Now we have this. Now let's go to the Jenkins, and the first where I'm hosting the Jenkins. You should see that. Okay. So you can see I'm into the AWS and I'm hosting my Jenkins server in a EC2 instance. And this is the Jenkins server where I have, if you just go and check the configuration part, it's of course a pipeline project. So if you go and configure, pretty simple. I'm just giving the repo. Again, by the way, this go for DevOps repo, you guys already have the access. And pretty much just mention the Git SCM, then give the repository URL, and after that add it and say which branch you want to build, or if you want to generate build for all the branch, then you should use the multi-branch strategy. But anyway, you can just mention the branch here, and that's it. You're all set to use that to build different Go binaries. Okay, so I have already tried, and I'm not going to waste your time. See, I have many time failure. Okay, and if it's failure, you'll see it will show that build failed and all that. If you go to console output, it will just show the build is failed. Okay, see, build or test failed based on the hook that I mentioned in the Jenkins file. And if it's success, then you will see the success canary also. Now it's a success, of course. So you see his build happening, and then it's saying, okay, deploying application, all this simple steps I'm saying, and the build and text successful. Okay, so that's as we have mentioned in the code. It's just done the same thing based on your step that you mentioned. It will just do the build. Okay. Now this is about the Jenkins. Okay. Now let's understand about the integration with GitHub Action. And by the way, GitHub Action integration is actually pretty easy. Now, if you're new to this, GitHub has native CI/CD tool called GitHub Action, which is seamlessly integrated with GitHub repositories, and a GitHub Action workflow for Go application could be, we can refer to this, okay, that we have mentioned here. And now I will, of course, let's go to that and refer to the code actually. So again, the demo code you will get in the this particular file called GitHub Actions. So you can see that the first thing is that the name, you can give the name to the particular workflow. Then on push on the main branch or pull request, you are triggering the build, which is why on which event the build should trigger. Then jobs, there you mention how or what is the flow. Okay, like in the Jenkins you had different stages and steps. Same way in the jobs you mention how the build should run. Okay, and the build you run on maybe Ubuntu latest or whatever OS you want to run it. And in the steps you can see uses action checkout version 2, and then we set up the Go environment here, action setup Go version 2, and of course we are mentioning the version also here 1.5. We can, of course, you should match with the particular version that you're utilizing. For example, if you go to the .github, which is how you should be running the workflow. So I have, for your easy to find the code, I'm mentioning the day 11. But if you want to run the GitHub Actions, you have to make sure you create a folder called .github/workflows. Inside that you have this particular YML. It could be with any name that as you prefer. There you have the code. Okay, so name Go, same thing. I just copy pasted. Okay, and here you can see the version is 1.21 because I have developed the application which is version running on the 1.21. Again, it's up to you and your source code. And what I'm doing it just like in the Jenkins, what I did. Okay, if you go to Jenkins, and I did pretty much the same thing, which is kind of, you can see, yeah, cd then day 11, and I'm just running the build. Same thing I'm just doing, cd into day 11, and I'm running the build there. Okay, and see, for here I'm just showing up to the build. If you have the test cases, you go ahead and run the test cases, the command that you as you wish. If you have any particular deployment, so maybe you are storing into the, say, GitHub tags, or maybe a zip, whatever is your use case, you can do later on. Okay, and of course I am planning a lot more, which will come to later on, but for now, for demo and to keep the demo very simple, it's up to this. Okay, now let me go to the web and show you how that works. Okay, so let's go to the screenshot. I hope you guys can see the GitHub page, and there if you just go down, and you can see there is a particular actions. Okay, actions tab, this one. And if you go there, see there's a different workflows. We have the Go application, of course, and Go first I tried, but that failed. Of course, that's good thing. And then after that I made some path change, and that worked. And see, it's how it looks like. And if you click on the build, it will show the, like, say, setting up the job, setting up the action checkout thing, then setting up the Go. All the logs will show up. Okay, and there's a build where I'm running the build. It shows that it will installing, downloading things, and it's generating the final build and all this kind of thing. Post run is doing the cleanup, and after this thing is complete job. So that, I mean, it's pretty basic. Of course, I'm showing the normal demo. There you have it. Okay, and the code, again, code is very simple. You will find inside the, of course, in GitHub workflows folder, or you can refer to the particular day 11 GitHub action. Now, one thing I just wanted to keep the demo very simple, just to give you an idea how the build for Go application, you can generate the builds. Again, based on your application, your requirement, you need to modify the source code a bit. That's up to you, and if you need help, of course, let me know. In this particular folder of day 11, I have mentioned, if you, for example, you are doing for the Bitbucket pipeline. So I have given an example for Bitbucket pipeline here. Okay, for example, you are doing for the AWS code build. So this is the build spec file for the AWS code build. Okay, for example, you want the Circle CI. So I've given an example for the Circle CI. So I have given, even for the GitLab CI also, I have given an example for the GitLab CI. So I've given all the major CI platforms configuration file for your reference. You can go and use them as you like. Okay, now let's learn about the automated testing and deployment strategies. Okay, so what about the testing? Again, if you guys are not sure of what I'm talking about, testing actually I have already covered, which is, let me just check where I've covered it. It should be in the day, okay, day 5. Yeah, see, day 5 I've covered all, say, benchmark profiling, unit test, and all that I've covered. So day 5 you can refer. Now let's go back to the slide. So what it is. Okay, so testing, you can do like integration automated test in your CI pipeline, which is crucial. You can set up the unit test, integration test, and end-to-end test using the Go's built-in test package. And in day 5 I've already shown how to use those different packages. So why you're waiting? If you want to run integrate all the test scenarios, test cases, write script, you should refer to the day 5 video. Okay, now ensure that tests run at every commit and detect bugs. I mean, if you see any problem in the code, source code, that test is not success, that's a problem, right? And the developer should fix that first. That should be the mindset. Now that's how the testing. Okay, and again, on the test session where I've covered day 5, I've already covered in very great depth. You can go and check that out. Okay, now let's talk about the deployment strategies. Okay, first we have the canary deployments. Okay, and what is that? So it is the canary deployment is gradually roll out the changes to a small subset of users before making it available to everyone. And what that means? It means that, for example, you have a website, okay, and you have a code which is, I'm calling a version 1. Now you added a feature or maybe some change. I'm calling it version 2 or maybe XYZ feature. Instead of releasing that feature to 100% of the users, for example, you have a user base of 100 customer or 200 customer, whatever it is. Okay, out of that 100 customer, you want only 10 customers to have that access to the feature, or they can see the recent change. Okay, Now you can do that using the canary deployment, and slowly you can increase up to the 100% based on the different time, or if there is no error based on your own different configuration, you can do that. Okay, that is the canary deployment. Okay, so which is simply like in a small subset you release the new feature, the new UI or new changes, and once you feel all okay, you can like do the 100% usually get the new changes only, that thing. Then the blue green deployment, which is switch traffic between two identical environment that have the different version of application. For example, same things. Okay, you have a website which have version 1 code running. You made some code changes, and it's not going to deploy to the version 1 or existing servers. Instead, it will deploy to a exact identical copy of the version 1 servers, where you first deploy the changes, make sure run the test cases, do all the tests, maybe your integration tests, maybe your manual QA test, all that. If you think that is good enough and it's okay to release to the customers, you switch the traffic, the DNS change, or say make an approval. Then the traffic, for example, you have 100 user traffic or 1,000, whatever is the amount of traffic, that will go to the green server instead of blue server. Okay, that is called blue green deployments. Okay, then you should have a rollback strategies. For example, any problem happens, then you should have a way to go to previous version. Okay, and I think one thing I should have mentioned, the rolling deployment, which is I think I missed adding that one, which is mainly for example, you have 100 servers, you want to have one by one servers since deployed, or maybe you want to have 2 by 2 server deployment, that kind of strategy. Okay, which is very easier, very common these days. So those are the common deployment strategies. Okay, now let's learn about the monitoring and logging. Okay, first let's talk about the monitoring. Again, this is theoretical part. Practically, I'll have different dedicated, I will make a videos. Okay, so don't worry on that. Again, let's come to the monitoring. So you can use tools like Prometheus, Grafana, or cloud native solutions like AWS CloudWatch or Google Cloud Monitoring to track the performance and health of your application. And there are many. Okay, there are many. Like say, there is New Relic, there is Dynatrace, and there is many Datadog, and so many applications available. Okay, you can utilize that. Then you set up alert based on metrics that cloud indicates issues like high response time or system outages or resource limit, all those kind of things you can track on. Okay, which is very good to have. Then there is a monitoring, right? Now, what about if an issue happen, you need to find a root cause, right? Or do the root cause analysis. Okay, or maybe disaster happen, that disaster analysis also you have to do. Many things you have to do, or maybe there's a problem, error happening, you need to find out what is the main cause of the error. Okay, could be anything. So for that you need logs. Okay, so we need a better logging solution, isn't it? So there are many kind of logging solution available, out of which, okay, there is the ELK stack, which is combination of Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. And there is Fluentd, and there is managed solution like Datadog also. Okay, you can use like any, I mean, there are many tools. I just given only 3 names. So you can use any such kind of tools to log your application log or maybe system logs, and later analyze if you need to check from the all those kind of logs. Okay, you need to analyze the logs and find the errors. Okay, now ensure that logs include enough context to diagnose issues without exposing the sensitive information. So don't log the sensitive information into your application. For example, password, credit cards data, or some cloud credential, DB password. Never do all this kind of crazy logging thing. Make sure you log. There is a good standard available. I'm actually thinking of making a log standard also, how to maintain logs. I will share in a LinkedIn post. There you should mention that part. Okay, so that's it, guys. Thank you for staying this long. See you soon again in my next video. Bye bye.